Hello and welcome to The Gist. I'm your host, Chris Vetrano, here every week to break down all the things happening in pop culture. And today I have a special guest joining me straight from the belly of the Bravo Beast. She was a staple on the 14th and 15th seasons of Real Housewives of Orange County and is now living her best life in Tennessee. We have a ton to catch up on, so please welcome to the podcast, Braunwyn Windam.
Yes, hi. So glad to be here. Greetings to my fellow Nashvillian.
I know. We're so happy to have you and happy 4th of July week. You're brave to do this right after a long holiday. What did you get into?
Well, first of all, we both know that I was late and kind of forgot. So I was so brave or stupid is the right word. Um, but we had so much fun. So we are in Franklin. So
Mhm.
we went to West Haven on the 3rd and watched the fireworks there and hung out by the lake. And then yesterday we had really found a great tribe of queer women out here.
Mhm.
And so we had them and their kids over and we barbecued. And then we went to Hollandale and watched the fireworks. It was so, I'm wearing my shirt. I'm like, I've never felt more American.
Well, I love that. Outside of my dog's anxiety, fireworks are so fun to just like, it does make you feel sort of patriotic to be underneath them and see them falling in the sky.
Yeah, there's something too about living here, which I never experienced in California, which is like, there's a sense of showing up as a queer woman
Hmm.
to like this is my country. I'm not going to protest today. I'm going to show up because I have earned my seat at the table.
Yeah.
And I did get some flashback or backlash. No, whatever. People are giving me a hard time. Like, how can you celebrate this holiday? And it's like,
Right.
you know why? Because this country's for all of us. And me just being in the South, a gay woman raising kids in a conservative Southern state, like, I don't need to protest on Instagram. My entire life right now is like me showing up.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. As a queer person myself, obviously it's tough sometimes living in a state like this where your rights are constantly being either judged or potentially taken away and always like that threat of that. But at the end of the day, Nashville is still a really fun place to live and there's so much here that like why not be somewhere where we can actually potentially impact some change instead of being somewhere where it's just a little bit easier.
Yeah, like being gay in West Hollywood or Brooklyn it isn't a statement. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, whatever. Me showing up to gymnastics wearing my gender is over shirt,
Mhm.
that's a moment.
It is. It is. Yes. That bravery continues. Well, I'm glad that you got to see the fireworks. But speaking of fireworks, you yourself have always been a firecracker, as we learned when you entered our lives into season 14 of Real Housewives of OC. And obviously, at the time, mother of seven, obviously still, you were married to Sean at the time. You came on the show as a friend of Kelly Dodd, which basically outside of two of those three things are completely different for you now, I know. And your
Yeah.
life has changed so much since you've been on the show. For fans that maybe haven't been following, give us a little bit of an update on from when we last saw you.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me just explain. I was brought on as a friend of hers. We met 2 days before filming. So, like,
Behind the
so
scenes, yes.
so that's actually we didn't know each other at all. But yeah, I was married to Sean, which legally I still am, and he still lives here. Like
Oh,
we
he's
still live
in
together.
Tennessee.
No, he's in my house in Tennessee. I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
currently he's in California helping the older kids move for college, but like. So legally, we're still married. We're trying to get divorced, but obviously, it's not fast.
Yeah.
We're co-parenting, we're nesting, like we're still family, whatever. Like, my wife lives here. We had a commitment ceremony. We are the modern family.
Yeah.
That being said, when you guys met me on the show, I had just broken a 7-year sobriety stint. So I've been having babies, procreating, nursing, and so I hadn't drank in 7 years. I was like, oh, I'm fine. I wasn't. So a
Hmm.
lot of that firecracker, which is me, don't get me wrong. I'm like, all the time, wasn't true to who I really am. Like,
Right.
I was a disaster. I've never watched any of the shows I'm on. Like, that wasn't authentic to who I am. And so I think you kind of saw the progression. I came on as this crazy girl, then I get sober, then I come out. Um, and over the last 3 years, I got sober here a little over 3 years ago. It's all starting to fall into place. And so while I'm still a firecracker, like I live in the country. As you can tell, like I have no hair or makeup or fake extensions or nails anymore. It's just a lot more real, a lot more grounding. And I have to say, reality TV holds a mirror up to who you are,
Yeah.
and makes you sort of confront stuff. I had a producer on the show, James, that said, when all this stuff with my sexuality was coming out, like, who are you really? And you have two choices. You own it
Hmm.
or you lie. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to own it. And I don't know if I would have done that without the show. I don't know if I would have stayed sober. So like, how am I now? I'm great and I'm
Hmm.
real.
Yeah. Which is what the show is really supposed to be, right? Like it's called The Real Housewives. And I think so much, I mean, you just kind of gave away the spoiler alert of like you and Kelly Dodd met 2 days before and, people are
Yeah.
auditioning for this and they put on such a persona and me saying that you're a firecracker, I think doesn't have anything to do with necessarily sobriety or not, because you still are like this very dynamic personality
Oh yeah.
and you're not defined by your sobriety, which I think is so wonderful.
I by like a lot of times when I was on the show, people were like, I don't believe your storylines. It's too much. My life has always been too much for a lot of people. Like I
Yeah.
just move at 100%. Like that is my speed. Is I go 100 and I love it. And my life is always changing since I was young. And that's how I am. I am always. I love it. I love it. I don't ever want to settle down.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously my relationship, but like, I don't ever just want to. No, that's silly. I love doing. I'm a human doing.
Yeah.
But when people say reality shows are real, I they're not. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's just not true. You get a call sheet, they tell you where you're going. It,
Yeah.
it's highly edited, hundreds of hours of footage for 40 minutes. So take what you want. I would never in a million years judge someone based on a TV show they're on.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, to reality TV, and I mentioned is like, doing a pop culture podcast, so much of what we talk about happens on Bravo because so much of what is happening in pop culture is happening on Bravo. And that doesn't happen by accident when you're just following real people and their real stories. And so
Right.
a lot of that is, I think we all know that there's a peek behind the curtain in some of that, but we hope as viewers, we hope that there's something to hang on to. And I actually always did feel like your story was more authentic the second season when you were struggling more with the sobriety and even seeing how some of those women were responding to it, sometimes negatively or questioning you and your authenticity of it. And I think that was what felt more authentic than probably
Yeah.
what you felt coming on. And you, as you said, sort of like doing all these wild things because you were potentially and had cameras on you for the first time.
And it was fun. I've been a stay-at-home mom for a really long time, and like having free, I always say filming is like you're in a bubble.
Mm-hmm.
You have full protection. You can do what you want. Bad behavior is applauded, for lack of a better word. But yeah, I had a hard time. A lot of the people I was working with on the show didn't believe, a lot of the other cast members, that I was actually an alcoholic. I will say, and this meant a lot. Gina reached out to me about a week ago
Mm.
and said sorry, because she's sober now too,
Yeah.
and she's like, you know what, I really misjudged you, and that meant a lot. Just be like, I was wrong, and I think that takes a lot of courage to say, like, when you're in that bubble of the show, it's easy to just forget what's real and what's not, because a lot of stuff is not real or
Right.
whatever. But that meant a lot because we haven't talked in years, and so for her to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong, that was like super cool.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe sometimes it takes someone going through like a very real thing like she's gone through. We've followed some of her, issues with her either non-sobriety or sobriety at times and what has kind of transpired for her. And now as she's seeing the other side of it, it's great that she can actually acknowledge you
Yeah.
and what you went through.
And I think a lot more people are starting to get sober. I think, there's a lot of walls that I broke down. getting sober, coming out. You're starting to see a lot more queer women on Bravo
Hmm.
now.
Yep.
Obviously, Miami, you have Julia, the New York, you have, I'm blanking on her name. She works for J. Crew.
Oh yeah, Jenna. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jenna, we have everything that's going on with the Beverly Hills with Kyle right now. And like, you have Selling Sunset, where
Hmm.
G Flip just got married to, oh my God, what is with my brain?
Chriselle.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I think there was a lot of things that when I did all this at the time, people were like, that's crazy. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Women don't come out after having children.
Yeah.
And now it's starting to be like, oh, wait, that's not true. So I did it first and people didn't believe it. But now I think once that first door is broken down, it's like, oh, okay, late in life lesbians, that's actually the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And how did that sort of come up for you? Because obviously you and Sean had been together for so long. You guys are still sort of doing this modern family world. And, 7 children, as you mentioned, like, did you always know, or was there something that
Yeah.
you just truly felt like you were suppressing for so long?
No, I always knew and Sean always knew.
Okay.
Um, when I met him, I hooked up with girls. I've always been attracted to women. But growing up in the 80s and 90s, we didn't have the representation of, I really wanted to be a mom.
Yeah.
I really wanted that life. And there wasn't, in my world, women doing that. Growing
Yeah.
up in Laguna Beach, I didn't see that. Women weren't doing the white picket fence family thing. A lot has changed in 40 years. Representation obviously matters. I say that all the time, but now we can see that, yeah, two women can have the children. They can raise a family. I didn't know that. And so I took that part of me that was like, yeah, I'm attracted to women, but I'm definitely not gay because I want to have children and I want that life.
Hmm.
As I started to grow up, obviously, and I talked about this on the show, we kind of minimized it to like crazy threesomes, but
Hmm.
obviously it was more than that. But like crazy threesomes was something that moms in the suburbs could wrap their brains around. Me being gay was a lot harder. Sean and I have had conversations about this over the years. There's times where this has been a big thing. Like, I really want to be in a relationship with a woman. So he wasn't shocked. I never hid this from him.
Hmm.
Um, I think we tried to have an open marriage where I dated other women. And I think that worked for us for a while until I realized I wanted a life.
Hmm.
I want what I have with Jen. I
Yeah.
wanted a wife. Um, but no, this was not sudden. My close friends knew when I came out to my mom. She was like, "Yeah, that makes more sense." Sean and I hadn't slept in the same bedroom in like 15 years.
Wow.
We'd still have sex, but we were friends, and we still are friends. We're family. He's like my brother. We're family.
Yeah. How, because obviously your kids are getting older. You just mentioned they're going to college. Some of them, you have 7, so they kind of span all over the place. But um, how has the journey of your sexuality come out to them? I'm assuming that they obviously know your life now. Has there ever been questions that they've had, or was it very normal for them?
I mean, they're a different generation. They're like cool.
Yeah.
Bella's 22. She's engaged. She's going to be getting married soon.
Oh.
Rowan's 21 and is pan. Jacob is gender fluid. I mean, so like you saw Jacob on the show doing drag. I mean,
Yeah.
this is our family is very open. I obviously when your parents separate, that's hard.
Hmm.
Especially when we were finding our footing of how are we going to live? What does this look like? We were fighting a lot. But now that we've settled into it, I mean, they love Jen. Bella, my oldest, my 22-year-old, and Jen text or talk 20 times a day. I
Oh
would say
well.
Bella and Jen are best friends.
Oh.
Um, it's just, Sean and Jen, it's just cool. Her being a girl, although she's actually non-binary, she goes by she, her, but she's non-binary,
Hmm.
um, has never been an issue. Kids are different now.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
I mean, as you said, like growing up, I was the same. I ended up coming out when I was 30, um, and I came out with my now husband. I was dating him at the time. And, I think a lot of my family and friends were like, oh yeah, I mean, obviously we knew, but I felt very similarly. I felt like there was certain aspects of like, if I wanted certain things in my life, they weren't allowed if I chose that other lifestyle. And I think that is so
Yeah.
much of like where it is. And it is so interesting. I see, kids and how they're growing up now. And like you said, it's like telling people, oh, like, oh, Uncle Chris is gay. They're like, oh, cool. Like, right. And like back in the day, it was like, I went through so much like bullying and teasing and so much like hardship through like some really hard times growing up. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, wow, what would it be like to grow up now as a kid? And I'm so happy that we're in that place.
I love it. I love gender expression is so beautiful. And I love that we're making safe spaces. I love it. I love it. We were at Franklin Pride. We live in Franklin, so we were at Franklin
Yeah.
Pride. And the young people there, the Wilco Iris group, they're just such cool humans,
Yeah.
And it's so wonderful to look at them being authentically themselves and being like, this is it. This is what the world could be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and Franklin Pride, which almost didn't happen, it's also like so wonderful to just be there and see people showing up for it after,
Yeah.
the community in some ways tried to just cancel it this year. And, it's just, there is something about being a part of that does feel like a little bit more important than, like you
Yeah.
said, being in WeHo and just going to Pride.
Right. But Franklin Pride wasn't about getting drunk.
Yeah.
Franklin Pride was about showing up and showing people you're not alone.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. So tell me a little about your, like, what led to Tennessee as sort of the landing spot for you and the family.
So post separation, my income was shot. I was like living on 1/10 of what I had before.
Mhm.
Jen is from New York. I'm from California. We were like, okay, where can we go where we can still have like a lower cost of living? Although if you're watching this, just so you know, Tennessee is not
No,
affordable.
no,
just
it's not.
like, just so people know, like it's still very higher cost of living, but not compared to
Very.
New York and LA.
Yeah.
So where can we go where there's great schools? I really wanted great public schools that's queer friendly because Nashville is.
Hmm.
I had to be near civilization. like I needed to be able, as much as I love the 2 acres that I'm at, I want to be able to drive and go out at night.
Yeah.
I wanted to be close to an airport. And then we're working on a new show right now. And so I wanted to be close to where you could have production companies come low cost.
Awesome.
So, like, as silly as that sounds. So, we had picked about 5 different cities that met all of our criteria. And when we came to Nashville, I fell in love. I have grown up on the beach my whole life.
Hmm.
I did not think I could move away from it. When we came here and I was looking at the creeks and the rivers and all, I was like, this is heaven.
Yeah.
I've never been anywhere more beautiful in my life. Like, I love waking up here. I I I can't imagine why anyone would live in anywhere else. This place is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It I don't know about you, but like my heart just feels so good here.
Yeah.
Like it's peaceful. It's just I love it here.
Yeah, it is a very peaceful. I mean, I live in East Nashville, so very close to like downtown. So it's
So
less
fun.
peace. It's so fun, but it's less peaceful than it was 10 years ago when I moved. Um, but yes, it is, and especially up in Franklin, and even just going like down Main Street, and it's so charming, and it feels like you're on a movie set, and
It's
that's
very Gilmore Girls.
it is. Yeah. No, I've never thought of it like that, but yes, it is very Gilmore Girls down there. So you mentioned a new show. Is that something you're able to talk about?
Um, Not like I mean, yeah, sort of. So I was working on a show about like dating later in life.
Hmm.
I think it's coming out on Hulu soon. It's called Out with the Old.
Okay.
Then I fell madly in love with a woman, and they're like, "Yeah, this isn't going to work. You're not dating." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm going to get married and move to the country." But the production company I was working with is like, what can we do? So it's a little bit like city girls move to the country because that's obviously what we are. Jen and I trying to figure stuff out sometimes. Like us with the hornet's nest was comedy, or like even trying to figure out how to mow 2 acres of grass.
Oh, I hope you're not. That's a
We're
lot of
no,
work.
we tried, we failed. Everything we've pretty much failed everything, but like and had to hire someone. But then there's like the human aspect of, our best friends are drag queens who were almost canceled,
Hmm.
or talking to your neighbors who are like, oh, you can be gay, but be gay this way, or, we don't believe in, protecting trans kids. And then those real conversations. I've had amazing real connections. Jen and I just did a listening tour through the South, and I've realized that you don't change minds by yelling on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's the real conversation. So although it's funny because it is like, Jen's from New York and I'm a former housewife, like
Hmm.
watching us try to live this country life is funny.
Yeah.
But then there's the real aspect of showing people what being a queer family looks like and
Hmm.
sort of opening people's minds 1% of the time. So I'm excited about it because it's something that means something to me. Like my idea, like Housewives is aspirational, but buying stuff to me and fighting isn't aspirational anymore.
Yeah.
Human connections, family, friendships, community, that's to me where it's at.
Yeah. You mentioned that you didn't watch the seasons that you were on. Is that something that you watch now
No,
postscript, or you're far away from it? Because I do feel like there was a point, and I'm interested in your take on this because you were obviously in this world, but I felt like something happened in the pandemic where we like, obviously no one knew what to do, but these shows had to continue. And I feel like OC was one of the ones that ended up having to film during COVID.
yeah,
And you guys had all these protocols, and some of the storylines felt really weird and forced because it was like certain people could only be in the same room, and you guys had to sit outside for everything. And it felt so produced in that way that I think it also sort of fell flat for viewers, which is why then
sure.
they did like a cast shakeup and they did all of these things.
Yes and no. I have a different take on it. I think, yes, obviously it's hard doing a confessional in your garage by yourself when
Yeah.
you had to set it up yourself because they couldn't come in.
Right.
And I didn't have air conditioning in my garage. So yeah, that was tough. Having to do your own hair and makeup, although most of us lied and said we didn't. We actually had a makeup artist over, but like, um, whatever, kill me. But like, it was weird. But I think that wasn't it. I think it was the same thing that happened in all the shows. It wasn't the pandemic. It was what started happening with Trump and Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
People were really starting to say, are you for human rights or are you not? Do you
Hmm.
want to buy a Chanel bag or do you want to show up? And I think it really made a difference. Anyone that showed up that was let go.
Hmm.
Because Bravo at the end of the day is a company and the majority of their viewers are middle-aged white women.
Right.
And they didn't want to be called out on their privilege. They didn't want to be called out on their ingrained racism. So if you were a cast member like me or Leah or Ebony, you were
Hmm.
let go because they don't want women that are actually trying to change the world. They want women that are placating other women that are complacent in it.
Yeah.
And that was really the gist of it. Here I am showing up, getting shot at by the National Guard in Huntington Beach. And other people are laughing about toilet paper. And it's like, how can these women work together? Like,
Yeah.
I realized that I didn't care about the things I cared about beforehand. I was that complacent white woman
Hmm.
before the pandemic. These things didn't matter to me. And you had people that doubled down on it and people that rose to the occasion. Sadly, Bravo viewers don't want people that rise up. You don't
Yeah.
want to sit at home and feel bad about yourself. You want to sit at home and laugh and feel good about yourself.
Yeah. I mean, we did see also, I feel like, and I agree with you in that. And I think that's really unfortunate, especially at such a pivotal time in America, and what pop culture was, what pop culture could have done with the platform. But I did, obviously Kelly Dodd lost her orange as well for, I mean, probably too late because she had already said so many things. Ramona was another one where it also started to fall flat. So I feel like maybe it was just those people that rode the middle of the fence that sort of
Yeah.
survived.
Although you'll see Ramona's coming back on girls' trips.
Yeah.
Other people that were sort of racist are starting to be asked back. Kelly Dodd never will be. And it's not because of her problematic views, it's because she went after the network. Never
Hmm.
do that. At the end of the day, Bravo is escapism television. You don't tune in to have what's going on in the country that you deal with every day in your real life.
Yeah.
You tune in for fun stuff. I get that now. And I understand riding that wave, for lack of a better word, but like, that's not who I haven't written anything. I take the hard path no matter what. And I'm grateful because it really propelled me into what I'm passionate about. You know, I do a lot of work in the queer advocacy group. I work a lot with GLAAD and PFLAG. So for me, it was the best case scenario. And I was asked to come back in a friend role that next year because Noella and Jen were both friends of mine.
Hmm.
But I knew it would be such a bad decision. I wasn't in a good headspace. My divorce, I was divorcing Sean. It was a shit show. Um, my daughter had some mental health issues. Like I knew coming back would only be bad for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think fame is like a drug. No, I don't think that. I know that. Fame
Yeah.
is like a drug. And it's hard to put it down. You want that next hit. Luckily, I work a program where I could take myself out of it and go, okay, this is hard, but what is best for me?
Yeah.
And you see it with other housewives that have been let go. They just want to come back so badly. They just
Yeah.
want to stay in that world. And I get it because it is addictive, but it's not healthy. Luckily, I was able to go, what's best for me right
Yeah.
now in my mental health?
So there's no world in which you would go back to that sort of format?
I mean, I would definitely do like Watch What Happens Live to promote my book or my show. You know, I have no ill will against Bravo. I think they're
Yeah.
great. I think when we hold them accountable for like, oh, why didn't you do more? We're just being silly because Bravo is just a window to the country. If you want Bravo to show up, fix the country.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's it. That's it. And I've never done that. I think Bravo's a great network. Um, you know, they're good content. They do what they can. That being said, I would never put myself into toxic situations because I I'm not that person. I care too much. Like
Hmm.
I care about
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like Andy Cohen has been in the hot seat, I think, a lot over some of the real controversial housewives. And like, why does Bravo continue to allow these people or give these people a platform to spread hate or to spread whatever, archaic viewpoint that they may have? And, he always kind of goes to his canned response of, well, that's part of America. That is what America is. So sometimes people
Yeah.
want to see themselves and you need a villain on a show. And so, he's talked about Kelly Dodd a lot in that sort of seat of like, Kelly Dodd was a good housewife because she was controversial and because she said horrible things that like some people related to, but also it gave everyone someone on the show to sort of hate.
Yeah.
And that just feels super strange. So Ultimate Girls Trip would be out for Braunwyn. No chance that you're going on a
No.
trip.
I mean, let's be honest. I would be so boring now on it too. I don't drink. Like I'm not going to fight with people. Like I really don't care. Like let's be
Yeah.
honest. Whatever you've done, I'm like, that's great. Are you happy? Like I just don't have that. I'm not going to come at someone anymore.
Right.
Okay. I haven't watched any of them, but I know they fight about the stupidest stuff. And it's like, uh, okay, I
Yeah.
can't. Now, if they changed the format and everyone got along and had pajama parties and read, listen to Eckhart Tolle, I'd be like, yes, this is amazing. I'm just not that and I'm not. I never was. I never
Yeah.
was. Wait, I take that back though. If they did like a lesbian ultimate girls trip where I got to hang out with, I could bring Jen and everyone else's partners, that I would be down for because it would be so
Yeah.
super fun. So if you
Yeah.
did all the gay ones and their partners, I'll be there at that.
Okay. Great. Well, if Bravo's listening, you know what
Yeah,
to do.
that would be super fun for representation. I would love to see a bunch of like queer women hanging out because it's such a different dynamic that like America's never really seen.
Yeah.
Just how cool and badass it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I was kind of feeling about OC is there was so much problematic viewpoints coming from some of the cities, and I felt like OC was one of them, where it was hard to watch as someone that wanted to use it as escapism. You started to really go like, I don't know if I'm aligning with this cast, right? And what I have liked is this current season is a bit of a return to form in the fact that like there is actual like clips of Gina with her kids and the dynamic between her ex and them getting the kids getting braces and like doing stuff. And it's like, that's what Housewives originally was. And it
Yeah.
was things where it was women that came together and a lot of them were just friends and they did things and it was sort of extravagant or whatever. And that's what made it, maybe fun. But then somehow it changed to what are we're watching the only reason we're watching is to see women fight. And so you're
Yeah.
showing up at a lunch and then everyone's fighting and then they all go home and get ready to go to a dinner where they're also fighting. And, it's starting to become this like crazy thing where I'm glad to see that Bravo's sort of taking these women back at least to a little bit of fun. There's of course going to be the dramatic aspects of, what happened between Tamra and Shannon behind the scenes that we have to like play out. But at the end of the day, I actually enjoy some of the like lighthearted stuff that I think we are missing from the show.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And that's good.
yeah, I had a guest on. We were talking about Ultimate Girls Trip, especially this last season. It was so dark because everyone had just come off of filming their seasons and then went to Thailand, except for Leah. She had been off the show, but they all were bringing so much drama from the shows, and it just sort of it was just dark. And the one thing that we were saying is, we want to watch the Ultimate Girls Trip because we want to see girls on vacation. And when you're on vacation, you're having fun. And like, sure, maybe like someone says something, in the heat of the moment, but you want them to ultimately like do fun things and like do photo shoots on the beach or, go ride elephants or go ride camels and have Luann almost fall off. Like those are some of the like, the fun moments of Real Housewives that I feel like we're
It's
missing.
the Bethany Sonia dynamic. It's just, that's what I used to watch for.
Yeah.
I don't really watch most of them anymore. I don't find them enjoyable, but like Bethany and Sonia and the laughing and that was awesome. You felt like you were hanging out with your girlfriends in a fish room.
Yeah. No, I'm very excited for the Luann and Sonia reality show that they're putting on. I think it debuts either this week or next. And it's like basically The Simple Life, Luann and Sonia going to like Oklahoma or Crappie Lake is what it's called. And I feel like I hope that sort of shifts the format.
I'm hoping they don't minimize the South. That's my only hope, because I think a lot of times when you're from New York or LA, you have these preconceived notions of what living in the South is, almost as if it's beneath you and you infantize it and that. So I really hope they're doing justice to the fact that not everyone wants to live in a big city and that like there's a lot of amazing, really intelligent people that live in towns that are smaller. Yeah. I'm like, please don't go for the easy, simple life thing. Like everyone in the South is a hick. Cause it's not true.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you mentioned it earlier. I wanted to get your opinion on a couple of like Bravo headlines that even though you don't watch, I'm sure you have some kind of thought. I'm calling the segment That's My Opinion in Ode to Tamra. So want your opinion on, obviously from this last weekend, the Kyle and Mauricio breaking news. What's your sort of thoughts there?
I think that when I read it, everyone's like, that's so sad. I'm so horrible. That's so sad. I think we need to change the narrative around couples separating. They're not divorcing, they're separating. They've been together a long time. Just because that happens doesn't mean it's bad. You're just pivoting, relationships change. Look at Sean and I. We're still together. We're still happier. Our family's still intact. Yeah. So instead of saying, oh, that's awful, that's so sad, be like, okay, great. I hope they both find what they need. As far as the rumors, obviously I'm not going to address that because it's none of my business.
Yeah.
I hope they're true. Because I truly believe that every woman should be with a woman at this point in my life because it's so much better. Well, everyone comes out later in life because it's just, if you don't, you're missing out.
Yeah.
But that's just me. The rest of that, like, do I have opinions? And if I think it's true or not, of course. But, I really just hope that they're happy. And I wish that everyone would be like, okay, that's great. I'm glad they're staying together as a family. I'm glad they're getting along. That's awesome. The next phase of their life is going to be whatever they make of it. Separation is not bad. It's just a change.
Yeah, and I think people got that lost a little bit. Like people released the news and broke the news that they were separated. And then they released a joint statement saying, whatever you've heard, we're not getting divorced. And so everybody's like saying, well, why did people do this? And now they're getting confused. And I'm like, there's a difference between separation and
Yes.
divorce.
And keep in mind, People Magazine and Dave Quinn would never run anything without permission from Kyle and Bravo.
Yep.
Dave Quinn, who wrote the Housewives book. Like
Yep.
they're in the same family. So that was a very much planned, approved story.
Yep.
That's the truth. Now, keep in mind, separation and divorce, not the same thing.
Yep.
I've been separated for 2 years. I'm still not divorced. And divorce is huge. It's assets. It's legal. It's business. It's you don't have to get divorced to be separated and
Right.
whatever. So those are very different things.
Yeah. And I think that's lost on some people, and that there could be, whether or not like the Morgan Wade rumors are true or not, I think it doesn't matter what their current status is.
We are doing a girls trip to Chattanooga to see her play in September. If you want to come.
Oh, I love Chattanooga. It's one of my favorite.
I've been calling Morgan Wade for a while because she's sober. She's in country music. Like I love her. So for me, I'm just like, please let all of my dreams come true.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe by that point, maybe we will know something. I'm hoping that all this plays out on the show, because I'm worried a little bit for Kyle that they potentially kept all of this stuff under wraps. Filming was starting to come to a wrap, and now it's all coming out. And I worry that they may be, putting on for the cameras.
I think the reason it all came out was because that Face Reality 16 that did the deep dive.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have ever addressed the rumors, except it was like so much.
Yeah, there was so many. So yeah, so I think the other sort of moving on with our Bravo edition of That's My Opinion. Obviously, want to get your thoughts on Scandival. Where did you sort of stand with all of that?
Okay, so Jen is in the room with me, and she wanted to kill me because I would kept trying to talk to her and be like, and then this happened, and this, and then there's lightning necklaces, and her brother died. And she's like, I don't care. So then we go to her tattoo artist, this big burly guy, and then he's like, oh my God, it's so fascinating. And her hairdresser, I'm like, everyone cares but you. No. Yeah. I mean, two things. One, it was fascinating television because they were lying on camera and going back, it was all filmed. Like, that was great television. The fact that the cast members are so close, the fact that they rallied around Ariana, amazing. Share glow up. I love what's happening.
Yeah.
The other hand, I'm like, can we please take the passion we have for this to like fight for equality? Because if the Bravo universe came together the same way they did against Rachel and Tom, we could like rule the world.
Change the world, yeah. I mean, like truly.
That's it. Like, if the Bravo community could come together on something really important, could you imagine the things that would happen? So yeah, those are my two takeaways from it. But no, I loved it. I was invested.
Yeah. The lightning bolts and all of that stuff. And that's where I kind of am like, I wonder if this is what's happening with the Kyle stuff, because, obviously Morgan and her have matching tattoos, and there's clips of Kyle like back on the reunion a while ago talking about some tattoos that she got. And she talks about the heart one and says, oh, it means something special, but she didn't really talk about what it meant.
And then it was also for me, the clip about Morgan's ex-girlfriend talking about the show and who was there. And I was like, we actually, I can't. So I had a bunch of gay women here for 4th of July. Mm-hmm. We all went through the deep dive, and I will say we all had a consensus in what we believed.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same. I feel like the world does. It's very similar to Team Ariana. I'll just say, like, there was one sort of side to all of that. So thoughts on New Jersey? Obviously, for 11 years, we've been watching Teresa and Melissa have this massive family feud. Do you have any thoughts on Team Melissa versus Team Teresa, or how does the show move forward now that they seem to be at an impasse?
I mean, I love Margaret. She's one of the coolest people I've ever met. So I'm always Team Margaret. Just because she's like a good human in real life. I feel bad for their kids. That's it. Those are cousins. That's family. That's not show. It's sad that the egos in the show ruined a family.
Hmm.
Um, I I have a feeling they're all coming back next year. I just that would be my guess. How you get around that, I don't know. But like
Yeah.
personally, I want to see the news stories. I love Rachel Fuda.
Hmm.
Um, and then what's her name? Jen.
Danielle. Oh, Jen Fessler.
Yes, Danielle. Whatever. She reminds me of an Orange County housewife. And she had some problematic tweets that I didn't approve.
Yes.
Like whatever. I If you don't think Black Lives Matter, then I'm not really for you.
Yeah.
But you know that's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But like Rachel Fuda, I love her. I love her husband. I love how he's changed his life around and all of that. Like he took, as a, yeah, I love her. I love Jen Fessler. I think that's the direction the show needs to go. It's sort of like how Orange County pivoted and gotten real. I focus on them, focus on the real stories. Cause like
Yeah.
we get it. You don't like each other. You both want to be the star of a show that at the end of the day doesn't mean anything. What actually matters is your kids.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is
And let's be
definitely,
honest, Teresa's new husband is super creepy. Like he's super creepy.
yeah, he's not
And,
doing himself any favors.
and that's red flags. Like, okay, the dude's creepy.
Yeah, there is something a little off. We gotta see, I guess, what will happen. I hope
Hopefully
everything's
you
okay.
figure it out. Listen to Margaret. She's a good person with Margaret knew my ex-girlfriend was super bad for me way before I did. She took me aside and was like, "Oh no, honey. Oh no." It took me a year to figure out what Margaret knew in 1 minute. So I
Wow.
will say listen to Margaret.
Okay. Well, there's the answer. What about the Real Housewives of New York? They're about to launch their new rebooted show. Do you feel like that was a smart decision? And then obviously we're doing the Legacy Ultimate Girls Trip. Do you feel like that was a smart decision?
Legacy is going to be amazing. We love those women. We've grown up with them. They're funny. They're irreverent. We don't like. They just have fun. I think the new one is going to be um, like watching Instagram.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. It it is very interesting. I was excited for Jenna Lyons, and then I saw that she was like watching old episodes and she was like posting about how she was like doing her homework to prepare, and I was like, well, that doesn't feel real at all. Like, why are you taking notes and doing homework about old episodes and how you need to show up to like argue and fight and like what your character is going to be? That feels inauthentic.
Yeah, and I know some of them. I I don't. Yeah, it'll be fine. You know what? The clothes are going to be amazing.
Yes, that is
It's
true.
going to be really well styled. Their apartments are going to be impeccable. Their shoes will be on brand. It'll be like that Dubai fabulous with the clothing.
Yeah.
So it'll be like watching Instagram. Instagram's fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Girls
And
trip,
then,
messy, fun.
yes, absolutely. Well, and speaking of girls trip, that's my last one for you. Do you have sort of like who you think should be on the next Ultimate Girls Trip? Who would you put together in the Housewives universe?
No, I wouldn't. No, like for real. We need to get Ariana on there. We need to get some of the summer house girls. Like,
Yeah,
no offense, housewives are typically we're like older. Like, I don't know. I feel like we're boring and played out. No offense. Like, let's get those summer house people on there. Let's
yeah,
get some Southern charm in there. Let's get Pump Rules in there. Like
yeah,
that would be phenomenal.
yeah. I've heard that a lot, and I think Andy has actually said like he's pretty sure that will happen at some point.
Yeah, like I'm housewife. In my opinion, whatever. Housewives are just same thing, different show. Like it's just the same thing over and over and over. And like I don't even have to watch it to know what's going on. I
Yeah,
get it. It's a formula. The younger shows are more fun. They have better demographics. The ratings are higher. Like we housewives are aging out.
yeah.
We're old. We're middle-aged women now. So I would go that route.
But
Keep
I
it
would
fun.
like to see more middle-aged women on TV too, because I feel like there's not a place for them all
Yes,
the time, and I would
but
like to
there
see
is,
it.
but it's not getting drunk and fighting in bikinis. There
True.
is definitely a place for us.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need to rebrand that as you grow up, you change. I want to be in bed at 10 and up at 6 in the morning drinking coffee. I don't want to be drunk at a bar. That is normal. I think you're forcing women to sort of be inauthentic to who we are in your 40s. You get much more in tune with yourself. It's like a lot of the religions, you can't even study them as a woman to a certain age. There's a reason
Mhm.
for that. There's a growth. And we need to honor that in the shows we put out about women of a certain age. We're not catfighting anymore. We're having
Yeah.
deep, meaningful conversations
Yeah.
that are real and honest. That is a different show.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was my fear on this Roni reboot is, one of the things I loved about the first season's Bethany days, Jill days of Roni was that it felt like middle-aged women. And I know Bethany was very young, but, living a fabulous life in New York, but I felt like with real issues. And so I feel like we're getting to the,
I think the new one is going to be, we're going to try to keep our lives are perfect. We're going to have issues, but they're going to be very, you know, it's like when people with perfect lives on Instagram are like, oh, I'm struggling with this, but they do it in a way where it's like humanizing them, but not actually the ugly. I do it too. I'm not saying like I'm immune to this. I'll take my hard day and make it look better than the ugliness. And I think that's what we're going to miss out. I think though that that's definitely going to be missing, but that's just the changing times. When all of these shows started, we didn't have Instagram. We
yeah,
didn't know. We didn't have followers. We didn't have paid gigs. We didn't have people commenting on every single thing we did on Twitter.
yeah,
It, and I think when you're new to it, like the new Housewives, it's hard. You're gonna change your behavior based on what people are saying about you.
hmm
And the only thing that Dave Quinn told me this, the only thing that's more detrimental than people saying mean things is people saying good things because you believe the stuff. So that's harder to get in this day and age, but
yeah.
we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong a lot.
Do you feel like that was true for you from your first season to your second?
Yeah.
And
Oh, for sure.
did that play any part of your sobriety?
My sobriety was I couldn't hide it anymore. I couldn't hide the drinking. This was
Yeah.
my third time getting sober and it went like this. Um, my lies weren't working. I was drunk
Yeah.
all the time and I knew the cameras were about to start up in a week and I couldn't hide it anymore.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you continue to share your story because I do think that, like I said earlier, I think that it was authentic in that second season when you actually were sharing some things that you were struggling with and that were real to you. And that first season, I know you said the firecracker thing and but I don't think that defined you. And I think so many people got to see you really going through real things in that second season in a way that, as we've kind of talked about, Bravo doesn't always show. And whether or not that's why they don't show it now, and why you departed the show, it's it it's just this kind of like wonderful thing that you continue to sort of stand for what you believe in, and you're not, as you just mentioned, with Twitter and hearing good things, is like you're not conforming based on like what followers are telling you to do.
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing that we need to start remembering is that we don't judge people in shows. Let people be who they are. We make mistakes. We learn from them. We grow. We change. And have the same grace for people you watch on these shows as you would your friend or your mom or your sister. Like,
Yeah,
I think a lot of times people forget we're real people,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, that we have bad days and whatever. Just remember, everyone you see on these shows, everyone's real.
Yeah. Well, and I saw that you posted this morning, people calling out like your sobriety potentially because you had a party at your house over for the holiday. And just because you invited people that were maybe not sober to your party, that doesn't necessarily make you or define you in any kind of different way than what you claim to be. And
Yeah. I feel like even now people still think I'm faking it. It's like it's been 3.5 years, and I live with a woman. Like these are not. I didn't make these up, but um, there will always be a part of you that has to like prove that you're telling the truth, and that's sad.
yeah,
But luckily, I have a really good ability to block people.
yes, yes,
And if you look at my follower count, it just keeps going down and down. So it's like, not today, not today. Come with
yeah.
love or don't come at all.
Yeah. And I don't know why people choose that. I don't know why it's like you're seeking out someone to just go troll and say horrible things to.
Have you ever in your life gone onto a stranger's Facebook and said name, or Instagram or whatever? I never have. Like, it would never occur to me to go onto a site of someone I didn't know and say something mean. So always remember that like you're not okay if you're doing that because normal
Yeah.
people don't do
Yeah. I mean, I'll admit it because I've said it on the podcast before.
that.
I have been known to tweet my opinions about various shows, and I might be blocked by a couple of people. And mostly it's Lisa Rinna because I may have compared her to one of our ex-presidents when she was gaslighting Denise for the lesbian rumors with Brandy, and I felt like she wasn't letting her speak, and I compared it to Donald Trump at the presidential debate, and she didn't like it. So I am one of those
Yeah,
people
I
that
don't
got
think
blocked.
anyone would want to be compared to him ever. I
Yeah.
would block you for that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and rightfully so. Like
Uh-huh.
my feelings about Rinna like are don't change. I think that the way that they treated Denise when she had that
Same.
was wrong. And that is why I'm very interested in what's going to happen with Kyle this next season because Kyle was part of
It's
that.
going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I think enough women have gone through the fire for people to understand that this is real, that being a late in life lesbian or whatever, not that she is, I'm not outing anyone. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
But I think as we move forward in society, it's becoming more and more common and more people understand it,
Yeah.
you know?
And
And so I do believe that there will be a lot more grace for not for any woman coming out later in life. There's going to start being more and more grace.
yeah. And being, interested in a woman doesn't always mean lesbian either. Just being
No.
queer and loving people and having good energy and feeling an energy pull to someone, all of those things are acceptable. And I
Yeah.
hope that in the Housewives world and in the Bravo universe, we continue to allow them to be because, you were one of the very first that really kind of paved the way for that, which maybe rocked the boat, but it is now we're actually seeing lesbian housewives and Taylor just came out on the last episode of OC as bisexual and said, oh, that's something that even her late husband like always knew. But we never did
Yeah.
as viewers for so long when she was, on
It
Beverly
wasn't
Hills.
okay back then. When she was on the show, it wasn't okay,
Yeah.
acceptable, or understood. And now
Right.
it is. And that's just baby steps.
Yep.
Keep showing up, keep talking.
Yep.
Eventually, there's housewives with children that are part of the community. There's housewives that are just keep the conversations going. This is how
Yep.
you get into middle America. This is how you get people to understand things. This is the stuff that matters.
Yeah. And I know that you're really involved in a lot of activism and talking about both sobriety and the LGBTQ plus community. If you could tell any of our listeners how they can get better educated or informed, where would you kind of point them?
Well, first, turn off Fox News. That's my first piece of advice. If you're watching it, turn it off.
I don't think any of my listeners are, but just in case.
Number one. I think one of the best things you can do in this day and age is fill your Instagram feed with people that inspire you. Find the LGBTQIA plus content creators that are teaching you. Find,
Mhm.
you know, um, people of color that you can learn from. Find queer activists. Find people fighting for change. I have some of my favorites, but fill your feed with things that make you a better person. I had to do a lot of soul searching, especially when it
Mhm.
came to, my whiteness and
Mhm.
how I benefit from it. It's not easy. You're not right. It's okay to be like, wow, that's not true. I was wrong. So I think that for me has been the biggest part. One, filling my feed up with people that I can learn from, understanding where I'm wrong, because I'm wrong a lot, and I can
Mhm.
acknowledging that. Um, Obviously, I love GLAD. I do. I love P Flag. Um, Matt, it's like Matt, not IX or something,
Mhm.
which might
Mhm.
be a
Mhm.
Roman numeral.
Yep.
Um, Rachel Argle, Deconstructing Karen. I mean, these are all just really incredible things that make you think and give you a broader perspective. So keep doing that.
Yeah. And it's okay to mess up sometimes. And
Oh, all the time. All
we
the time.
are,
It's okay to mess up all the time. Um, that's how we grow. That's how we
yep,
grow.
absolutely. Well, like I said, it's been a pleasure to chat with you, and I appreciate all of your time. Like I said, after a holiday weekend, giving me all of this time and using Jen's office.
Yeah. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Jen. But tell folks where they can follow you and keep up with all the work that you're doing.
Mainly I'm on Instagram. I've given up on all the other ones. I'm too old to care anymore. But yeah, follow me on Instagram, Braunwyn Windam. Look out for the new show probably 6 months from now. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm
And you said
around.
on
Or
Hulu?
no, I don't know where it's being picked up yet.
Oh, okay.
But or just if you see me wandering around Nashville, come say hi.
Yeah, we will do that for sure. Well, thank you again for being here. Such an honor. And again, welcome to Tennessee, because I love having another ally and another queer person to sort of continue to fight the good fight with. Um,
We will be
for
out at play this weekend if you're around.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes. I'm sure lots of bachelorettes will be there. Very happy to see you too. Um, well, thanks everyone for listening. Don't forget to rate and subscribe so that you never miss an episode of The Gist. You can follow me at CM Vetrano. I'm on Twitter, sometimes Instagram, TikTok, and of course, tune in next week for more from The Gist. Bronwyn, thank you again. So good to see you, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye.